Thank you for joining us late this afternoon to talk about total cost of ownership. And thank you to our team who showed up as well. Feels like we've got a little fan club here. We'll open with a question to you. Do you already know what your tech stack is costing you beyond just the subscription fees? That's the question that we're going to try and help you answer today, and that the 5 lessons will help you utilize. For those of you that we haven't had the pleasure of working with yet, you'll find both of us in Shopware's product marketing team. Karina is our expert on sales enablement, and I work on bringing our customer stories to life. So, before we go ahead, I'll head over to Karina to tell you about how we got here.
Thanks, Adriana. So yes, Adriana and I have known each other for over 10 years now, so it's really nice to be on main stage together. And we do meet regularly for coffee. And one topic that kept propping up when we were chatting was actually TCO. So we got really curious and did some digging, and we wanted to know how TCO basically manifests in the real world. So we analyzed 100 different Shopware customers from different regions, verticals, and models to find out the top 5 lessons and what they reveal about TCO. So not just in spreadsheets and theory, but we wanted to look at real customers and real businesses. And what we found were 5 most common themes that reveal how TCO manifests in the real world. So we won't spend too much time telling you what TCO is, but I'm sure you're familiar with some common pitfalls that contribute to platform costs over time. So if we like to imagine TCO as an iceberg, your subscription fees are what you most commonly see, but what you don't see are the rising costs from workarounds that then eat into your margins, and just inefficient workarounds like creating so many costs over time, all making that TCO just very unpredictable. But we can reduce this. So
the reason that you're all here to find out the 5 lessons that we learned from 100 of our customers. So we won't gatekeep these and hold you until the end. We will show them straight away, but I really encourage you to stay because we're going to go deeper into each one and give you an example of a customer that did this really well. So, in order of frequency, these were the 5 most common things that our customers mentioned as impacting their total cost of ownership. We're going to work back from the 5th most frequently mentioned to the 1st most frequently mentioned. And as I said, we'll give you an example of a customer that did this particularly well to give you some inspiration. So, straight into our 5th.
Yeah, so starting at the 5th most common impact on TCO was the ability to simplify workflows without losing customer personalization. So this was particularly prominent among our B2B merchants. And to clarify, here we're talking about personalization for the end user. So you want to ask yourself the question, do you know if your workflows are costing more than your tech stack? In a typical B2B operation, the ability to say yes to your customer's unique requests is often a significant competitive advantage. But what about when all of those yeses are just costing you so much in complex workflows? This is where the importance of simplifying your workflows without compromising on personalization can really save your business more than just a platform discount. So Veolia is a really great example of striking this balance between personalization and simplified workflows. As a global player in B2B waste management, they do receive a variety of different requests from their unique customers, and it's been really important for them to enable their teams to handle these requests. So the way that they do this and their solution to personalization is just enabling their customers through a dedicated B2B portal with different conditions where you can set different conditions and privileges per segment, all handled in a really nice centralized space. The result of this is then an efficient internal operation with even better customer experience than before. And the impact that this has on their TCO is that their employees have actually more time to focus on sales and service, whilst their customers are still receiving that high personalization. So this is just a really great example among the hundreds that we analyzed, where a more efficient internal operation does not mean a compromise on personalization for your customers, but quite the opposite.
Now, the 4th most commonly mentioned learning as impacting their total cost of ownership was a surprising one, and it was just how frequently customers attributed success to a seamless API connectivity. Think about your own operations, whether you're a merchant or an agent. Is your current API slowing you down? Maybe you started really simple with just an ERP to a store connection. Then you added a PIM, then came a CRM, and then it was marketing automation. And because they weren't all connected, you came to update one, and you broke 5 others. Your teams are then spending a lot of time fixing it rather than looking on moving forward. So what are the real solutions that some of our merchants use to address this? When it came to connectivity, Virgin Active is a really good example. So for context, the fitness industry, especially in Italy, moves really quickly. And that means that their customers move just as quickly and their needs change. And Virgin Active needs to be able to keep up with that. So the important thing here is the story. So for better agility in their market, Virgin Active were able to centralize and simplify their subscription management. As a result of this, they were able to centralize multiple systems together, which meant less waiting time for their customers, a reduction in admin error, and the ability to provide new services just as quickly as their market demanded them and just as quickly as their customers were moving. And on to our third learning.
Yes, so the next observation from 100 customers is that they didn't have to constantly rebuild their code in order to grow. So we all love to talk about innovation, but the reality is that not all platforms are built to handle that change. So when you look at your whole tech stack, are you set up to scale for the future as well as for today? Your store might look really modern on the surface, but is it really the solid foundation that you need when you experience traffic spikes or your business model evolves, or if you just want to try out something new? In the case of Shopware, our customers answered that question with yes. So most customers that we talked to talked about the significant impact of a composable structure and headless capability that had on their ability to scale. So a composable structure meant that this enabled our merchants to swap out or add services as needed, whilst the headless capability meant they didn't have to disrupt their workflows to do that. But what's really more important is the result. So merchants like Bioref could adopt gradual rollouts in order to centralize their global network of stores. And this resulted in the smooth go live of 35 Shopware instances that spanned 28 different countries and brought together a huge inventory of over 200,000 products. In the case of Bioref specifically, they showed really good examples of all 5 of the points that we're talking about today, including integrating multiple different ERP systems, and all of this just meant their tech architecture was really set up for future growth. And each part of their platform could really grow independently as needed without accumulating that architectural debt.
And our top 2 learnings. So merchants often talked about spending hours and sometimes even days on very repetitive tasks, and this might sound familiar to you. And although we don't want this to be a sales pitch for Shopware, it was surprising how out of the 100 customers, almost every single one mentioned using the Rule Builder and the Flow Builder in some way. So we thought when we're talking about automation, this is really important to mention because clearly it's been a game changer in being able to automate without having to write code. So a question for you. Are manual ERP syncs hurting your productivity? Before Shopware, merchants mentioned struggling with day-to-day friction from things like manual steps, duplicate data, and repetitive admin work. All of this was quietly eating into their productivity, and I think the solution here is very obvious. It's automation. A great example of this was Thomas Phillips. They showed one of the most impressive KPIs after automating. But what are some of the things that they did? So they utilized ERP syncs, shipping logic, order automation, and dynamic workflows. All of this together saved them an impressive 80% on accounting workload. And that's not to mention the impact on other teams or the cost savings that comes from that. So it's really important to automate where you can.
So we've now arrived at the number 1 driver of long-term value and lower total cost of ownership, which is customer-centric design. So it's not news that making small improvements do compound over time, and because Shopware makes it easy to roll out those enhancements without long development cycles, your cost of ownership drops whilst your value goes up. At the end of the day, your customers don't really care about how flexible your architecture is, but they just care about how seamless their end experience really feels. So we often think of TCO in terms of back-end infrastructure, integrations, and licensing, but the most overlooked driver of cost over time is actually right in front of your customers, the user experience. The way that many of our merchants tackled this was through a very fast and flexible front end, powerful tools like the Shopping Experiences Editor, and dynamic rules to tailor pricing, checkout flows, and content to specific customer segments that made browsing inspiring and just purchasing really easy for the end user. Out of the 100 customers that we looked at, PMG showcased this front and center. So now dealers can self-manage orders, invoices, and support, whilst their sales team can set goals and credit limits per dealer, which really cuts down the manual workloads and accelerates their sales through a platform that customers, dealers actually want to use, not just have to use. The result of this is just a really seamless B2C experience, but inside a B2B portal. And that was measurable on their return on investment as well as their TCO. And this is just overall a really great example of how the better your user experience is, the fewer resources you need to fix broken journeys or recapture lost revenue or re-platform for performance.
So bringing those 5 learnings back together again, this is what 100 different customers told us and what commonly came up between them as affecting their total cost of ownership. And if we go back to our iceberg again for a minute, it's also how other merchants can reduce unexpected costs in their business. Because what you see is ultimately going to be what you get. And if you can see the operational impact from all 5 of these areas, you're going to be able to reduce that unpredictable TCO. So you might have noticed a few common threads throughout these 5 points, so I'm going to bring them back together and just make them a little bit easier to remember and take back with you. So 3 questions for you. The first, are you impacting your customer journey, and are you impacting it positively? Every visit to your storefront should give customers clarity, confidence, and even inspiration. Because an enjoyable shopping experience is going to drive conversions and cut acquisition costs for you. The second question, are your systems working as efficiently as your employees? Your teams are already fast and they're creative. But if they're spending most of their time fixing broken journeys and having to manually fix things, those systems are going to be holding you back, not lifting up their natural creativity. And finally, a common thread between all 5 of these lessons, will your ecosystems work for your future business as well as for today? Sometimes the most expensive tech is not going to be the one with the biggest price tag on it, but it is going to be the one that locks you in long term and restricts the natural changes of your business. So when you're looking at new systems, make sure that you have the flexibility to grow, even if you don't know what direction you're growing in yet. Thank you for joining us today. I know some of you came in a little bit later, and we got through those 5 relatively quickly. But if you scan the QR code, you can look back at those 5 lessons and all 5 of the cases mentioned today. You can also read them more in full, connect with us, and of course, we'll be around in the evening if you want to chat more about TCO. Thank you.